Hey everybody, it's Menz here. Today, obviously, I have a scavenger hunt code kind of tagging along with this video here. We also have the object 244 here, which we've recently just got as far as NACCs to kind of play a little bit. This tank hasn't really been released often. It's the first time like we've seen it on the NA server. I believe it's been sold on the Asian server before, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, who knows like when or if this thing's gonna come out. You know, whether it's soon here or rather maybe a little bit later. In any event though, scavenger hunt code is going to be in the title of this video, also in the video description. You can also catch me. I'll be streaming over on Twitch as far as doing a sheriff stream tonight here on Sunday if you're catching this the same day. But object 244, what the heck is this thing? Like I had some people when I was playing battles, because I've played a few battles in it so far, like what the heck is this? It's something that pops up. It's tier 6, it's a heavy tank, it's Russian, obviously, because why else would it have this home front camo on it? But anyway, let's get into a quick comparison, then I'm going to pop into a battle. Might be a good battle, might be a bad battle, but you're going to see kind of some real gameplay with this thing. But comparison wise, quick little breakdown, you can kind of see it as I'm going along here. The Object 244 is, I would say, closer to the T3485M and the T3485 than it is to actually the T150 and KV85. Basically what you're getting is you're kind of getting the tier 6 Russian heavy tank like turret and hull, but you're getting the medium tank's gun, the 85mm, and you're getting a little bit of the mobility too, which is nice. So it's kind of like a heavies and mediums just getting smashed together. And is it a good outcome? Who knows? But so far, it does 180 damage, which is pretty low for a heavy at tier 6, especially for a Russian one. Pretty low pen at 144, but in line with the mediums. Premium pen brings it up to just under 200, I believe. It's still a little bit less than the heavies, but the premium pen kind of makes up for things. In any event though, DPM. So your DPM is lower than the T3485M, but if you're looking at it here, it's actually higher than the T3485 in the tech tree, albeit the 85M is pretty darn good for a tier 6 premium. Your DPM's decent here. It's better than the T150s, albeit the alpha's not to say half, but it's almost half of the T150s, and you're just lagging a little bit behind the KV85. You do have -5 degrees of gun depression, which a little bit less than the T150, better than the KV85 though. More or less though, like the gun depression doesn't feel bad on this, even though -5 degrees isn't great. Less than the mediums though, so keep that in mind. Accuracy is actually the best value out of these tanks. These are all 100% crews with no equipment or anything, or crew skills or whatnot. Best accuracy, aiming time's not too shabby too at 2.21, so basically tied with the T3485 in the tech tree. So it's accurate, doesn't hit very hard, has somewhat low penetration for a heavy, but you're going to be firing fast. The gun feels nice. You might struggle a little bit against higher tiers, but what tier 6 doesn't. Getting down to survivability here, hit points 880. Top here, only the T150 has the same, KV85 has 10 less, so much higher than the medium tanks, which is awesome. Armor wise too, your listed values are actually the best here, listed armor value wise, and honestly the armor is actually pretty decent. It's nothing like spectacular. Basically from my understanding, this is kind of it's almost similar to like the tier 7 IS in a way. The armor scheme, I think the hull's very similar in the turret, so you're getting kind of a down-tiered IS when it comes to that regard. I'll look at the armor real fast before I get into a battle. Mobility is actually pretty darn good, so when it comes to your specific power, it doesn't look anything like spectacular. The terrain resistance, there's nothing too special there, but the top speed's pretty high, and even with the slightly lower specific power here, it's even less than the T150 and KV85. The thing kind of, once it gets up to speed, it takes a couple more seconds to do that. It's kind of zippy. Like, it's not as fast as the medium tanks, obviously, with 53 and 54 kilometers an hour for their top speed, but it's pretty darn good. The thing's decently mobile. Traverse speed's actually not too bad either. Generally speaking, it's like the KV85. but obviously it's less than the mediums. Camouflage, nothing to see here. It's not too great. It's higher than the heavies, but a lot less than the mediums. And your view range is crap because you're a heavy tank. So, like, is this tank, like, good or bad just looking at the stats? Like, it's just this weird mashup between a medium and a heavy. Like, you know, it's definitely nothing like, oh my god, I need this thing. It's because it's a tier 6 premium. It's not like you're going to be playing this a lot for credits. But you know, the crew training works with most of the tanks in the IS-4 line. It doesn't work with a lot of like the ones like the IS-7 and stuff at the higher tiers with more crew members, so keep that in mind. But getting to like the armor here, at tier 6, it's actually decent. It's nothing like, you know, you're gonna block like millions and millions upon a damage, but looking at it right here, you can kind of see like it's a little bit better than T-3485M, especially the lower plate here is actually pretty thick and strong. So that's something to keep in mind. These angled parts on the hull are actually pretty good, to where people are gonna pen you if they hit like this driver's hatch. But outside of that, like they can ricochet off the angled parts. The lower glacis will block quite a few like low rolls when it comes to penetration. You know, people are gonna bounce here. The turret front, albeit it does have some holes around the gun, it's not too bad unless they hit like a flat portion. So like the armor can be a little bit trolly, especially if, you know, obviously tier 5s are shooting you. God forbid a tier 4 shoots you, then, you know, it's gonna bounce a lot of the times. Armor on the sides is actually pretty good, or like looking at it flat on, like again, nothing like spectacular, but having around like 100 millimeters of effective armor and like 90 on the side of the turret, it is decent at tier 6 sometimes. It's a lot better than, you know, obviously if you're getting shot like in the side of the KV-85. In the rear, in a few of my battles, I actually was blocking quite a bit from the rear. I was like angling, when I was caught off guard, I was kind of angling like this and getting some lucky bounces off the back. But, you know, it's something you don't want to lean on, but having the higher HP than the mediums and having like a little bit of the medium mobility and the medium gun fast firing is nice, but you do lack the alpha like other heavy tanks typically have at tier 6. So let's hop into a battle, see how this goes. No pressure. The way I do my, kind of reviews here, I guess do them in one take. You get the good, you get the bad, and we'll see if this is going to be a good or a bad one. All right, so it's teleport me over here to the left side with my epic editing skills. Oh my god. As I just drag myself across. All right, they have a KV-2, so I am probably, the issue is, so like the KV-2 obviously big gun, most likely using the derp gun. Having the smaller gun on this, like I'm only doing 180 damage. I can swap over to premium to, you know, virtually be able to pen like say the KV-2 in most areas without having to aim too much, but like I'm gonna need like what, like 4 shots in the time that the KV-2, you know, can basically do the same amount of damage in one shot most of the time. Whereas like if you're playing like the T150 or the KV-85, basically you would need like half the amount of shots basically to do the same amount of damage. So you're exposing yourself a lot less in those tanks. Something to basically, you know, keep an eye out for. You can see the low kind of specific power coming into play here. It took me a little bit of time to get up to speed, especially because there was that little bit of an incline before we're going a little bit downhill here. So that's one thing to, you know, kind of mention about this tank, is the specific power. Your top speed's a lot better than the heavies, but getting to it can be a little bit tricky sometimes, especially if you're not on like hard ground, you know, because of the terrain resistance that Russian heavy tanks have at the mid tiers. But, you know, in my limited amount of battles here, like I haven't played like, say, dozens upon dozens of battles. Like I have about a handful of battles in this thing. Like, I can say I like it. Like, this doesn't feel like, it's not a bad tank. It feels different enough to where I'm sure people that like Russian tanks would like this. But it's definitely not like crazy powerful. As, you know, I say that, I kill a tank, albeit it didn't have much HP. You know, it just feels like one of those, like, say, collector items. Like, I hate to say that because, you know, you're collecting, like, virtual tanks, but some people like doing that. But, you know, I could definitely say it's not a bad tank. It's just being a tier 6 premium. Crew training, you know, with the crew training manuals, crew training is a little less important. If you like the mediums at tier 6 for the Russians, like the T-3485M, and you kind of want something a little bit like sturdier because it has higher HP, a little bit more armor, you'd probably like this to where, you know, the larger size and, you know, less gun depression and stuff. I don't know if it will say replace the T-3485M as far as being a super, you know, really good tank at this tier. It might, but, you know, I think both have a place just because they do have those different stats in some areas. And I didn't pen him. I guess he really wants to shoot the new tank. That's my guess. Alright, at this point, I think I'm just going to head this way, to be honest. Which, oh god. I guess I goofed up there. There we go. Like, FPS, don't drop now. But getting to the, you know, the main thing why people are probably still watching this, if you're still here. Like, is this tank worth buying? It's kind of hard for me to say, like, yes, this is definitely worth picking up. Just because it's a tier 6 premium tank. Who knows when it's going to be for sale too. I would say the only reason to pick this up is if you like playing, you know, tier 6 tank. That's, you know, really the only reason to get this, to where the crew training isn't that important because honestly, like, most people probably have, which I probably shouldn't sit in front of this Wolverine because he can cut through my armor. Most people probably have, you know, a Russian premium crew trainer already. So if that's the case, where you say you have like an IS-6 or, you know, like another Russian heavy premium, you know, the reasons to get this is mainly because you like the playstyle, which, as you can see, I almost did 1200 damage here, and it racks damage up fast. Like, just with this little crew I have here, like, we'll have to look. I don't know if this actually has brothers in arms yet. You know, your reload is about 5 seconds. It's pretty fast for a heavy tank. You can catch people off guard, honestly, that don't know that your reload's that slow. Or quick, excuse me here. You know, where sometimes you can, like, you can keep people tracked, like perma-tracked on, like, heavy tanks, other heavies that can't do that at this tier. It's just like it seems like it's dumb for me to say. It's hard to describe this tank, but it's just it's so much different than other, like, premium Russian tank offerings, I guess I should say that. But it's not a bad thing. It's just, you know, you're kind of like a generalist tank, albeit your gun depression's pretty bad. At -5 if you compare it to other nations, but for Russian, -5 it's workable. But it's probably one of the less frustrating, I guess, tanks to play if you don't like, say, getting trolled by RNG and stuff, just because of that awesome, it's like, I think 0.34 accuracy it was, just at 100% crew with nothing else added to it. Like, that's kind of unheard of for, like, a Russian heavy, like, at these tiers. Like, that's the one, I would say, the best thing about this tank is it's accurate. Your shells don't really go anywhere that you don't want them to. Just do note the biggest gripe is that specific power, to where I don't think it's as big of an issue because it's mainly at, like, the start of the battle, or if you stop and then, you know, you need to zip away. You just need to remind yourself you are a heavy tank, to where, you know, it is nice having that higher top speed and whatnot, but, you know, for the most part though, that's really like the main thing I would say is the specific power sometimes can be annoying. The rest of the tank, you know, there's nothing too much wrong with it. We had an okay battle here, you know, 1500 damage, a little bit of assist, a little bit of block. You know, just a third class, to where I don't know when or if this is even going to get sold. Just decided to tag this with my Scavenger hunt code today, so I thought this was a pretty interesting tank. Let's see, I got 4 battles in this thing. I thought I played this more. I thought I played it like 4 or 5 times the other day when I was streaming. I guess I was wrong. But so far, really small sample size, obviously. Got myself 100% win percentage. There you go, guys. Russian bias confirmed. But all in all, though, like, just in this small little sample size, like, the last battle, I didn't block much, but this thing can block a decent amount if you're top tier. Whereas just a quick little, like going into like the KV-85 and previewing this tank here, getting the armor viewer up. The armor on this is a lot, a lot lower by about 20-30 millimeters effective, and that lower plate on the Object 244 is really nice. And then if you pop over to the T150 that I believe has a little bit more armor on it, but I could be wrong. Yeah, it has a little bit more armor. So your armor's still, it's better than a T150's, I would say. Yeah, by just a pinch. But yeah, that's one thing where even the sides like just barely a little bit better on the 244s. So overall, like, is it worth picking up? Like I was saying, like if you like the gameplay at tier 6s, because I know not everyone does, it's a fine tank to where the crew training isn't as important as, you know, some other premiums might be, just because there's crew training manuals are out there nowadays. And when it comes to like what crews this lines up with, like you can see the IS, which is I kind of second guessed myself when I said that. So the hull on the 244 is practically the same as the IS's, just a little bit smaller. So like the IS crew lines up, KV4 crew obviously not, but the ISM, IS3 I believe. So basically the, you know, a few tanks it lines up with. Trying to get into like the T10, the 257 it should, but if you pop over to like the ST1 or like the IS7, it doesn't line up with that. But yeah, maybe it's a little bit better crew training than I gave it credit for. There's a few Russian heavies it won't work with. In any event though, thank you very much for watching, especially as I kind of get sidetracked here and I start kind of babbling and going off script here. Again, the Scavenger Hunt code is in my video description below, so you can find that there. You can also find it in the title. Tomorrow, Claus Kellerman will be releasing the code as well over on his YouTube channel, I believe. He's trying to keep it a secret, but I think the secret's out too. Claus, he's live streaming now on Twitch as well, if you haven't heard. So I'm sure you can catch him there as well, and if you don't catch his code on YouTube for some reason. But in any event, thank you for watching. You know, thanks for kind of hanging in here at the end, especially as I get off track. And have a very nice day. See you guys.